This next bit is split off from another vlog, so it might look a bit odd, but yeah, I've split it off, so it's a standalone vlog, which it wasn't before. Okay, bye. There's a couple of worrying, very worrying, several worrying things that I've seen on the campaign trail, and the 2 days ago, I think it is now, he was talking about how would Liz Cheney feel with 9 gun barrels pointing at her face. It was on a Tucker Carlson interview. No one else would ever get away with saying that. No one else would get away with that type of violent talk. But he just seems to be non-stick. It's just incredible. I'm not going to read the whole thing back to you, and I haven't looked at it since. I've been avoiding it. I avoided it mostly yesterday. There's a lot of shouting about, oh, you know, the clip's been taken out of context. But the reality is, even in context, it's still fucking disgusting that he's done that he said that. There's a sense of him inciting somebody to assassinate her. She has to walk around with private security because of being at risk. I think, who else did I see? Mitt Romney also has security. So yeah, he's inciting violence against people all the time and just walks away free from any repercussions. It's just seems to be one rule for him all the time, and I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. Why is he so fucking untouchable? The other thing, I'm going to have to drag this back in now. The other thing was yesterday, and I don't know where he was. I think he's still in New York. I think he was in Westchester, and was having problems with his mic. And I'll let you look if you want, but he was miming oral sex and miming air. I'm not going to say any more than that. You can look. But he was just being disgusting, and also, again, inciting violence or suggesting violence, saying, oh, you know, I'm having trouble with the mic, I'm not going to pay these people, I'm going to go and, I can't remember the words, but, you know, it's going to go and, not in England they would say beat them up, but I can't remember what he said, but that he suggested that the workers needed roughing up. And I don't know whether that actually happens. I always remember the documentary that was made about him in Scotland when he put in his golf course in Scotland, and the way he treated the people there, the way that he treated the locals, the way that his mob treated the locals. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the old lady that had her water cut off deliberately, and she had to go and get her water from, I think she'd got a water butt in the garden, or she had to go with buckets to go and get her water, and she was an old woman, and he didn't give a shit. I've never forgotten that. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. So they're two of the things that I've seen that I think are absolutely awful. And if that hasn't changed people's minds about him, I don't know what will. If you're a woman and you're able to vote in this election, then you really need to vote, because you need to vote. Well, obviously, I don't want you to vote for the orange sack of poison pus. You need to vote for Kamala Harris so that your kids are protected, so that your daughters and your sisters and your granddaughters and your cousins and your nieces are protected. If you are a woman and you don't go out and vote, then you're complicit in what happens to them. If Trump gets in, you're complicit. You really do need to vote. You can't sit on the fence. You can't sit and say, I don't like either of them, so I'm not going to vote. That's not acceptable in this election. It really isn't. Um, it isn't. You're going to be responsible for what happens to your granddaughters, your daughters, your nieces, your aunties, your sisters. Don't be complicit. Don't be complacent. Go out and vote. You really do need to do that. I've watched a couple of Dr. Arlene Unfiltered on YouTube this morning. One is that she did a few days ago about the polls, and I think I've talked about it before, and talked about how you really can allow yourself not to believe what the polls are saying because of the way they are performed. If you think about how the food industry will do research on obesity, and how whoever's paid for the research wants certain results, and quite often the people doing the research will give them the results they want. Or just think like that, and that's some of what's happening in the polls. The polls know that the person paying them is wanting certain outcomes. So alongside all the other stuff that makes it not very representative, alongside that, they're asking leading questions, which are creating responses that they want to hear. The other big thing is that polls are only using landlines. They don't use mobiles. So you don't know who's going to... So you might have Mary Sue on your list, but you don't know that Mary Sue is the one that answered. You don't know who you're going to get answering the phone. I think older people, I think she was saying that older people, because it's older people that are likely to have landlines, like us, like me, we haven't got a landline. They're more likely to say what they think the pollster wants to hear, because they're used to pleasing people. So there's lots of reasons not to believe what you're seeing in the polls. The other thing she talked about this morning was that the campaigns are constantly pushing your fear buttons and saying, we need money, we just need this, we need a bit more money, we just need this, we just need that. And that's normal when there's a campaign. All campaigners are always asking for money. They're spending lots of money. They're always needing money. But it's not an indicator of, oh my God, they're running out of money. They're not going to get there. So that you don't need to worry about that. But actually, she talked about, on a couple of her vlogs that I did watch yesterday or the day before, she talked about Georgia, and I think she talked about Pennsylvania. I always get Philadelphia and Pennsylvania muddled up, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, yeah, whatever. Talked about those and talked about the returns, the exit polls from those, or from the postal voting, or from the turnout. I can't remember what, but she talked about that. And George, I said Georgia, didn't I? And how there's a much greater turnout than they've experienced since Obama was elected. So that's very good news. And so if you watch her, it's reassuring, because I know a lot of you are seeing stuff that is, a lot of you are losing sleep. Kathy, eyes open, losing sleep, anxious, mad, losing sleep, anxious. A lot of you are losing sleep and being anxious. I'm feeling positive because of what I'm watching. I think Robert Reich, also reassuring. So it's good to look at those people. You can look at the other stuff as well, but there needs to be some balance, so you're not just being given all the stuff that suggests he's winning. There's people commenting on my vlog, you get the odd maggot one go, oh, Trump's going to win, and I'm thinking, no, he fucking isn't. And I like to... The difficulty is that when he loses, which he will, those Trump supporters will not see the consequences of what would have happened if he'd become the president of the United States. They won't see the consequences. We won't get, thankfully, the consequences. You won't get, thankfully, the consequences. So the problem is they can carry on being deluded. And that's just a thing. So it isn't. There's lots of people that are not going to understand how it might have been had he became president. And I know I'm talking like that. I'm hoping next week I will be talking like that. And I also know that I've said, but I'll say it again, that when January the 6th comes around, there's a big difference this time in the person who is in charge of the National Guard, the person who is in charge of law and order and justice is Biden. And he has tools that he can use to protect people and the Capitol building and the people in that building, unlike Trump, who sat back and did nothing for hours and hours, despite pleas of call them off, make them stop. So we should see a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, I know between Kamala and Biden there'll be a peaceful transfer of power, but hopefully by January the 6th, the orange sack of poison pus will be heading to jail. And any of you people out there who pray, you can pray for that. I don't pray because I'm not a prayer. I'm an atheist, so there won't be any praying from me. So those of you that believe in prayer, pray that he's in jail very soon.